I started thinking about filming this documentary series, the last place I figured I would start, or even eventually end up, was my hometown. Considering I spent most of my life trying to get away from the place. But the more I thought about it, it just kind of made sense to start where I started.
I grew up in Middletown, Ohio. A small town that coincidentally sits right between Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio. Growing up here, I was lucky enough to be surrounded by tons of artists and musicians. There was never a shortage of interesting and eccentric people, each one with a story to tell. And that's what this series is about. The people who've dedicated their lives to their passions and dreams. The ones that fight the good fight. The underdogs. And this is Fred Gillespie, a local singer-songwriter and blues musician. Fred grew up playing music with my father here in the 1960s. Today I'm meeting up with Fred at Combs Barbecue to discuss growing up in Middletown and his life with music.
From Middletown originally?
Yeah, I was born in Middletown Hospital up there on the hill before they tore it down. I only lived out of Middletown maybe a year out of my entire life collectively, maybe.
What was the town like then versus, let's say, now?
There's no comparison. It was, Middletown was a big money town. Armco was thriving. Everybody's parents made good money. Downtown was bustling. It was before they ruined downtown when they put that stupid mall down there. And it was a great town to grow up in.
Right.
Back then it was fabulous. And now it's a dump. It's getting better, but it won't ever see its former glory. Well, not in my lifetime, let's put it that way. I won't live to see it all happen, but it's getting better.
So once the industry went out with Armco changing again, and the last lockout, which was like 2006, I guess. I think that was kind of the end of it in general. And unless that infrastructure comes back into play, I don't think it's going to ever turn like that.
You're going to have to find something else to do to focus the town on besides Armco/AKA.
Yeah.
Those days are gone.
Steel and paper manufacturing pretty much all the town
That's
had.
what it was, and that's what it was. And there's Sword and Crystal Tissue and Diamond International and all these big companies here back in the 60s,
How early did you start messing with music?
My mom used to listen to the radio in the car, so I was always like in the back seat singing and stuff. Now they didn't have seatbelts, so I'm just bouncing around. She'd let me stand in the front seat. I used to stand up in the front seat of the car. It was like 1959, 1960. And I'd sing along the radio. And then in second grade, I decided I wanted to be a bass player. So her and my stepdad, somehow or other, I ended up with a bass guitar and a little amp. I started taking lessons, and I was just not old enough. So every time I went to the lessons, I would sit there and I'd ask the teacher to play for me. I'd just sit there and watch him play.
Right.
So finally he gave my mom the word that, hey, this is not working. He's not ready for this.
Right.
So I got the itch again in about 5th grade. And my dad bought me a Ward's Airline acoustic, the strings about this far off the neck. And I went and took lessons then, and there was some old guy, kept wanting to teach me the Mel Bay method. Single note Mary Had a Little Lamb, and I was like, this is crap.
They still sell that same book.
Yeah, the blue one.
Yep.
So that lasted maybe 6 lessons or so, and I was like, I'm done with this. So finally, in the summer of 1969, my cousin Phil Peck. Phil was about 14, I guess. I was just under 13. I was a few weeks away from being 13. So Phil's in there and he's playing along and entertaining the family. And finally I said, Phil, show me something. And he goes, all right. And he showed me how to play the Beatles song, A Little Help from My Friends. So after that, it was kind of like, oh, somebody finally showed me a song. It's something I can practice and enjoy instead of going, Mary Had a Little Lamb, you know? So after that, it kind of stuck. It took. In the 10th grade, I discovered the Alton Brothers. And I'd had Live at the Fillmore East. My uncle got it for me a year before. And I kind of listened to it, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is cool, but I was listening to other stuff. I was kind of into Humble Pie and Crosby, Stills, Nash and stuff like that. And so I'd had that album for about a year, and then finally I just got it back out again because I was going and watching the East End Blues Band. And the Calvert Brothers were in that band, and they practiced right next to your dad's house up there on Manchester. So your dad and I'd run over there and watch them. And that's how he and I both got into the Allman Brothers, because we were both starting to kind of jam a little bit. So I learned that entire album, and I learned to play slide that same year. So after that, it just continued. I'm trying to think of when it clicked, because slide's real funny like that. I kept trying to play slide. I never could get the hang of it. But I kept messing with it. And finally one day I was sitting in my bedroom. I'd just come home from school and I just sat there at my desk, and when I used to get home from school, I'd always sit down and I'd drink a Coke and play my guitar for a while. That was when I come home from school, quote unquote ritual. And so I was like, oh, I'll play a little slide, see, try this, and all of a sudden, man, it was like, oh, I get it. It was just finding the touch, you know. I mean, there's a touch thing. It's like learning to ride a bike. You know, you just suddenly, it's real quick. You don't slowly evolve into learning how to ride a bike. You just kind of keep trying, falling off the bike, and then you get it. Beaumonts started as the Greg Clark Band. We had several rounds of drummers. We started playing out of town, and we all wanted to move in a blues direction. We all wanted to play originals, but you know, the four of us wanted to move further into this blues because the blues would just get real hard. And we were like, hell yeah. Then it became me and your dad and Paul Goodwin and Calvert. And then John Smith decided he wanted to manage us, and he got us this Little King sponsorship, and everything just kind of snowballed, and all that stuff with House of Blues started to happen. And then we started winning awards and getting sent to places like Memphis to play in these contests. At the time, they ended up, now they're called International Blues Challenges, but back then it was just, go down there and play in this thing. You guys go ahead. And actually, we were invited to play, and it wasn't even the case we won any competition. It was like the first one or two of them, so we just went down there and played. And that's how we kind of got discovered. And so we went down to Kiva Studios, and they did a 5-day lockdown, put us up in the Peabody Hotel, and, so the whole thing was free, except for our expenses, for food and booze and stuff. Went through all this recording, and then they never called us back. So one thing led to another. Everybody got all disgusted and started firing people, and it finally just dissolved. That was the beginning of the end. I mean, when we didn't get that deal, everybody started to bicker, and everybody was getting tired, burned out. So.
Sometimes when things like that happen, people want to blame individual people.
Oh, it was crushing. Yeah. It was crushing. It was just, all the it was kind of like a collective exhale. And
then what sort of thing did you do after that?
Played in some really shitty bands. Really shitty local bands. It kept my foot in the door.
Yeah.
It kept me from just, not playing at all.
What do you think between all that, given that scenario, kept you doing it?
Because it's an addiction. I mean, it was like, well, I don't want to go play tonight. On a given Friday night, I would be thinking, I don't want to go play tonight because I don't want to play Pink Cadillac, and I don't want to play, Hang On Sloopy. I don't want to play some of these dopey, stupid songs. But then inside of those set lists were also some songs that were a lot of fun too, So I had to kind of take the sugar with the vinegar. Plus, I had a little equipment. And every musician wants to play with his toys,
Right.
One night at Stefano's about a year ago, I was in there, and Greg Calvert was in there, and John Smith was in there, and I think Paul Goodwin was too. We all just coincidentally showed up in there the same night, and we all started talking. So why don't we put the band back together? Kind of like the Blues Brothers thing. Let's get the band back together.
Yeah.
So everybody agreed. I was flabbergasted.
What advice would you have for young you?
Wow. It would be two different things. Two almost, opposing forces. It would be, the first thing I would say to me then was, get out of town. Get someplace where you can be heard. The flip side of that would have been major in something at college that you're going to love, and not major in something just to get through and get a damn degree. That's going to make you some money, because I ended up majoring in something. I got a degree in systems analysis, and I've been miserably doing it for 30-some years. I never have liked it.
Right.
So I probably would have told myself to kind of be a little truer to myself, and not just do something just to do something, just to shut everybody up so I could graduate from college and go do what I wanted to do.